So last Friday, I went to a conference. It was the annual tree failure conference, and I had to drive across the Golden Gate, and it was getting pretty stormy. And I always enjoy this conference. There's a lot of great speakers. There's a lot of great topics. I get an opportunity to see people that I haven't seen in a long time. Because of COVID, it's not been a live conference for a while, so it was really great to get back to this. If you've never gone to one of these conferences, I highly recommend it. You get to meet people, you get to learn a lot of new things, you can see what's new in the industry, but it's well worth attending one of these conferences, especially if you're seeking your certified arborist credentials. So at the end of the day, it cleared up. And back to the storms. We had some horrific storms. I like to go out for walks in the woods when it's stormy, and this is right before the winds started. The rains were starting to come down. This is at the top of my driveway looking out over the roads. The winds are just now starting to pick up. And we lost our power for 6 days during these storms. And I witnessed so many tree failures, so many trees that I was surprised that went down. There's a really interesting one. There's a couple of giant eucalyptus trees adjacent to a runoff. There's usually not this much water here. And this tree leaned and fell into another tree. Somebody else got out there and took the top out of it. I'm not quite sure how they're going to finish this job because this is a significant amount of weight. You know, honestly, I don't know how this job's going to get done because I don't think a crane would want to try to support this. And unfortunately, because it moved and the whole root ball came up, you can't really stand it back up into the hole and then support it and pull it down. So I think a crane would have to hold this the whole time as pieces were taken off, so you couldn't really use the crane. But that would damage the infrastructure of the waterway if things just dropped. If you made a big cut and dropped it in the other tree, yeah, you know, the road is right there too. It's a really busy road. And closing off this road to do this crane work, well, that's going to take some special permitting. And any way you look at it, that's going to be an expensive job. So I looked at another eucalyptus. This was a fairly significant tree. And at one time there was 3 of them. One fell down a few years ago already, and this one also fell down. But I want you to take note of how small the root ball, the root zone of this tree is. Now, these trees were here long before this condominium complex. Look at the damage that the tree did too. It smacked that building hard. There's still one big tree left. I know that a big crane is out there taking it out right now. This is not my job, but we used to trim these trees, so I have a vested interest in this. My company has pruned these trees a number of times, and honestly, this is such a massive, big job. It's going to take a lot more manpower than I've got. And there's trees down everywhere. I mean, I cannot believe what I'm seeing. And this big sycamore fell over. This thing is just massive. And it's got a big root system. The tree was leaning significantly. There's a shot of the old man with the stump on that tree. That's a big stump. Look at this thing. This is another tree. This is a live oak, and all the roots are decayed, but the foliage on this tree was completely full and completely green. And if you had looked at the tree before it fell down, there wasn't anything that said, oh, this tree is a hazard. So what I'm learning in all this storm work is any tree is potentially going to go down. And I'm getting all these calls. People are saying, is my tree safe, or are my trees safe? I don't know. There's yet another one. This is a client that we did some work for. We took out a bunch of dead pines in her front yard, and she had a whole row of Arizona cypress. There was probably 20 of them, and about 10 of them blew over. But they all blew over for different reasons. Some of them had decay, some of them had root decay, some of them didn't show any signs of anything that would alert me to the fact that they were ready to go down. There's some decay and some root rot. Some of them just didn't have much of a root system. But the one thing that was consistent with all these trees is they were full of the cypress berries or seeds. That's kind of cool. That's an edible mushroom. It's related to the lion's mane. I'm going to see if I can let it grow a little bit bigger, and I'm going to go harvest that and make that a dinner. And slides, so many slides. In my travels, I'm also noticing trees that I don't know why this tree didn't go over, because it's very clear to me that there is a lot of decay in the wood of this tree with all this fungus that's growing on the tree itself. I'm not even sure exactly what fungus this is. Maybe one of you out there that is more knowledgeable on fungus can tell me. Here's a eucalyptus that went down. This is one of my clients, and this is a tree that we've worked on many times in the past. And unfortunately, this tree was full of hollows, which the owner of this property knew about, because he was telling me that there was a squirrel highway. The squirrels would come in one hollow and come out the other. Well, it finally gave up the ghost and dropped a big limb, and unfortunately smacked a couple of cars as it came down, as well as that glass table, and a little bit of damage on his roof. So this is one of the few trees that is deciduous that I saw failures in. So it was pretty clear to me that the failure was associated with extreme decay. This one was interesting. We did this job last week, earlier this week, I'm sorry. This tree was moving in the wind. The clients called me and said that it was moving a significant amount. So I'm looking closely, and if you look really, really closely at that rock that's on the root ball, you'll see it moving slightly back and forth, back and forth. And the tree was situated between two houses, and it had kind of a rotation. And I stood there and I stared at this for probably an hour, and we all came up with the consensus that there's a couple of problems. One, the tree had been topped in the past, and it had 4 new, very large tops. So it was excessively heavy, top heavy, and had a lot of weight that was causing this tree to move in the wind. And this wasn't even during the worst of the winds. These were just, 15, 20 mile an hour winds that was causing it to rock back and forth. But I was noticing cracks all around the tree in the soil. And that's a good indicator that the tree is moving in the soil. So if you see separations between the dirt and the trunk, that means that it's pushing back and forth and moving. So we made the decision to reduce this tree rather than remove it. One, because this was on emergency rates, and he can always remove the rest of the tree later if he decides to. But basically, we wanted to make this tree safe, or safe enough. So we decided to cut the tree in half. And, I don't like to top redwood trees. And it's not just redwood trees that I don't like to top. I don't like to top any tree. But there's a big however. Sometimes when it means the alternative is to remove the tree or cut it back really hard, yeah, we'll do it. Sometimes you're dealing with a tree that has been topped before and it's heavier than it should be. Sometimes you get a tree that's under the power lines or too close to a building, or there's so many what ifs. So there's the picture of the tree before we did the work. You can see that it is moving in the wind a little bit, and normally I would say, well, that's very normal. But because I also saw it moving at the soil level, that's what alerted me. Oh, well, that's all I see there. It looks pretty good to me.
Yeah.
You've even got the fifth centered in the star. Now, what are you going to do with these things?
Oh, we have some family members. It'll be spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before. How long have they been sitting here?
Well,
9 years.
2 or 3 now, so yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to share that the homeowner did some clever chainsaw cutting of some pine pieces, and frankly, I was quite impressed. It was pretty cool making these great big stars, and he showed me how he did it. So, not that I'm going to run out and make stars, but it was kind of interesting. So I'm just going to let you watch the rest of this. This is us doing the work. Jorge's up there. I'm on the ground. We're doing some roping. I'm pulling some of these things down. It wasn't an extremely difficult job, but there was a lot of obstacles that we had to deal with. Plus, we knew that the tree had been moving in the wind. So this day, the sun came out. There was a little bit of wind. We felt much more comfortable being in the tree, but there was a good windstorm on the horizon. The weather report said something was coming. So we wanted to get it done now. And this is how we left the tree. It's only half a tree. I don't know whether he's going to keep it or not. Anyway, thanks for watching, and be safe out there. So I spotted this as I was leaving. A couple of redwood trees that they topped severely. I don't know.